Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shark in the gun, got the knowledge for the college. Football show breaks down the odds of scholars. 3-unit bangers, stacking cheddar like towers. Ride the wave to fame, flex in the midnight hours. 9 words of lifestyle, spitting flames, no pity. Dominate the board like kings, ruling the city. Sports, gamble, and hustle. Money moves so gritty, cashing tickets every Friday. Life looking pretty, ride the wave. Feel the rush, hit the game. Shark in the gun, setting fire to the name. 3-unit banging, stacking chips, no shame. Friday night sports kings claiming that fame. Analyze stats, break bread, no sweat. 3-point spreads, risk life, major bet. Cash in pockets, feel.
On a suddenly not so casual Friday in September, it is CFB Knowledge for College Week 4, the Shark and the Gun, Friday night, September the 20th, 2024, right here live on Sharky Waters Nation X and YouTube. Jump in the chat, crack a beer. Our energy is huge. A lot of top plays, Guns picks. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, we're in week 4, baby. That means conference play, baby. That's what we're looking for on this beautiful Friday. And we got a big slate of games to give you, a 9-pack of picks and a little bit of alignment as well. Shark, I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Everybody wants action. We want action tonight. Friday night football out west in Pullman. A big game. A game we are looking to fade, specifically the Apple Cup result from last week. San Jose State, a scrappy team so far this season, opening the broadcast, throwing it to the gun. San Jose State plus 13, unofficial.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a banger. Mountain West versus the Pac-12. Well, at least a couple teams left in the Pac-12. San Jose State going against Washington State. Pullman, Washington is the spot. 10 p.m. is the kick tonight, so get on it. After this show, you got San Jose State coming off a 31-10 win over Kennesaw State last week. Plus 225 net yard average for the game. They're 3-0 in the year with a plus 16 point differential, plus 124 net yard average. And Washington State coming off a close win versus Washington in the Apple Cup, like Shark alluded to, 24-19, minus 71 net yards and minus 1 turnover ratio for the game. So looking at the stats, you have this Washington State team that's 3-0. So you break down the box score. Look at Tech when they played Texas Tech. Texas Tech drove the ball into Washington State territory 6 times in the second half and only came up with 7 points. That was the deciding factor in the game. Washington had 8 possessions into Washington State territory and only had 1 touchdown, 4 field goals, while Washington State had 7 possessions in a row in three quarters in Washington territory, and they had 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal. Deciding factor is their scoring and their opponents aren't. Washington State really, if you look at their defense, not good at all. They give up over 400 yards of total offense to their opponents this season in their first 3 games. 464 yards per game given up to their opponents overall. Then you look at including 301 yards per game in the air, and they only have a 3.1% sack rate. So in the passing defense, this is where their weak point is. And guess what San Jose State likes to do? They love to pass the ball. They average 314 yards per game through the air and 8.8 yards per attempt this season. Washington State's success has been running the ball. 6.4 yards per carry this season in the first 3 games. And San Jose State's defense has the ability to stop the run. They've only given up 3 yards per carry so far this year. Granted, lower competition, but I think this defense will hold up against Washington State. Potential sandwich spot if you want to look at the deli counter here. Washington State coming off a big win in the Apple Cup, highs of highs. Probably a game they should have lost if you look at the box score. And then they get a big opponent next week. That's right. Boise State on the blue turf. They're going to go travel on the road to go play them next week. So maybe overlooking this San Jose State team. 14-5. ATS is a double-digit dog. San Jose State is since 2018. So this is a backable double-digit dog. You have the situational play with the sandwich. You have Washington State coming off the highs of highs in the Apple Cup, and now they're going to have to go play a team that they're going to overlook and maybe thinking about the game ahead. So Friday night lights, 10 p.m. East. We're going to be going to San Jose State. I got 12. You can get 13s out there, so grab it now. That is the plan. I'm going with it. San Jose State and the points.
You say Friday night. I say Saturday high noon in Morgantown. my first official of this week 4. Kansas Jayhawks on the road in the first half plus a half. And if you guys go back to last week, I started to really hone in on these first half plays on the numerical splits. And this connects with it. As you saw this game open at 2.5 for the game, but only a half for the first half. And it's telling you a very specific story. This is the Big 12 opener, and you're finding Kansas coming in off an L2 and 0-2 ATS in the last 2 first halves. I like to buy low on that. But when I looked at the box score of those first halves, my eyes lit up even further. Go back 2 weeks ago at Illinois, pick 6 inside of a minute in the second quarter by Jalen Daniels to not cover the first half. A first half they dominated. And go back to last week, a home game against UNLV, a scrappy road UNLV team, 27-yard passing TD by UNLV on the final play of the first half to backdoor cover the first half for UNLV. So Kansas has gotten egregiously backdoored in the final minute 2 consecutive weeks. Now we flip back to where Jalen Daniels does perform very well. In his career, spanning 5 years now with Kansas, he is 4-1 ATS in the first half on the road in Big 12 conference play. And that does include a cover 2 years ago in Morgantown, September 10th, 2022. And that brings me to the line in this game. The last time Kansas played in Morgantown, West Virginia was laying 15.5 points. So this really tells you the tightening up of quality in these programs over the last 24 months. We think Kansas probably wins this game, but we are centered on the first half. And final point on this, look at West Virginia. We took a loss with West Virginia in the opener, a home game against Penn State. We thought West Virginia would come out guns blazing. They did not. 20-6 Penn State in the first half. Bounce back week 2 at home against FCS Albany. No, sir. Another non-cover. This is a lackluster coach, Neil Brown. He's not a general. He's not a leader. Lance Leipold and Kansas will be live and ready to go. All situations, all situational analysis point to this, including the number. First half, Kansas plus a half. Next play, throw it to the gun, 3:30 p.m. Michigan Wolverines staying at home off a shellacking last week, catching yet another ranked opponent at the Big House, and yet again an underdog. And the gun is buying low on the underdog at plus 4.5.
Yeah, you said it, Shark. Is buy low on Michigan, sell high on USC. Michigan Stadium at the Big House, Ann Arbor, Michigan. This game does tip off at or kick off 3:30 p.m. East. You have Michigan coming off a lackluster win again, 28-18. Just like their first game was very soft and slow and gross. Playing Arkansas State plus 155 net yards for the game, -2 turnover ratio was what kept that game close. And USC is coming off a bye week. Their last game, they beat Utah State 48-0 with a plus 190 net yard average on the year, plus 28 point differential. They also beat LSU in week 1. Then you got Michigan. They made the decision. They finally pulled Davis Warren out, Alex Orji in after an underperformance from Davis Warren, having 6.2 yards per attempt passing, 2 touchdowns, 6 INTs so far this season. They had to make the change, and they did it with Alex Orji, who is a mobile quarterback. He loves to run the ball. He averages 5.7 yards per carry rushing in his past 2 seasons. So what you're going to see out of this Michigan offense is old school Jim Harbaugh football. He's not there anymore, but you're going to see that type of football here, run oriented and getting back to the basics. And then you're doing it against a USC team that has historically been bad against the run. Granted, everybody says that defense has improved. Well, not numerically, they haven't. In 2023, they gave up 4.8 yards per carry on average. This year, they gave up 4.5 to LSU and 3.8 to Utah State. And both of those teams are pass-oriented offenses. These aren't running teams, folks. Not like this Michigan squad that loves to pound the rock, including what they did last week versus Arkansas State. They ran the ball 71% of the time with an average of 6.8 yards per carry. last week. So you're already seeing what this offense can do. And of course, Alex Orji coming in the fourth quarter to boost that offense. Also, look at USC historically when they come off a bye. 1-4 ATS since 2021. So they don't prepare. They come out flat usually. And now they're going to do it on the road in a Big Ten game, which is new territory for them in the big house. I just think this is time to buy Michigan. Like I said, the stock price couldn't be lower for the reigning national champs. The main parts and pieces are gone from this national championship squad. Most of them went to the NFL, but I think at home, playing as a dog with a new quarterback and reverting to the old school offensive scheme, this will be a step up on the offensive side, and they'll find points versus a poor rushing defense. The strategy, I believe, is going to work on this one, and it's going to give their defense some extra rest. A good defense has been keeping them in a lot of these games, excluding the Texas game, of course. So I'm going to be riding Michigan. It's time to buy here, folks. You can get the line right now, +4.5. I'd say take it and sprinkle on the money line, baby. But the official pick for the show is going to be Michigan, +4.5 as the play.
Guns buying low on Michigan. I'm going back 12 noon and buying low on a team Guns had last week. And I encourage you guys to buy this team this week. Buy low on the green wave. Ride the wave or get out of the water. Taking Tulane on the road down in Louisiana on the money line, -122. And as I was saying, this is your consummate buy low, and it's also very situational. Tulane is sitting 1-2 straight up on the year, 2-1 ATS off back-to-back losses. You have to look at who they lost to, however. Kansas State, ranked loss. Tulane up 27-20 in the fourth quarter before a melt, 14 unanswered by Kansas State going away 34-27. And last week, in Oklahoma, 24-19, tight game in the fourth quarter. Oklahoma opened it up down the stretch to cover a 13.5 by a tight margin, 34-19. But now you get the bounce back, and now you get to where they do function well as a favorite. 1-0 ATS on the year with a week one blowout against an FCS team. Go to the other side of this game. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, fool's gold at the highest level, 2-0 straight up, 1-1 ATS in week one at home, blew out Grambling, an FCS team out of the SWAC, 40-10, but didn't even cover the spread there, which was actually 34.5. And last week at the aforementioned Kennesaw State, 34-10 win on a -14.5. The two opponents that Louisiana has beaten this year are a combined 0-4 versus FBS opponents with an average loss of 21.8 points per game. This Louisiana team, sitting with 2 margin wins, is the absolute level of sell high and fool's gold, and buying Tulane on the buy low situationally as well, -122 on the money line. First collab play of the broadcast. The gun is wearing the hat. I will throw it to him in Blacksburg, 3:30, taking Vatek at -3.5.
Yeah, it's about time we start buying on a little hokey action. Lane Stadium, Blacksburg, Virginia is where this game is going to be taking place. 3:30 p.m. is the kick. You have Virginia Tech coming off a 37-17 win over ODU, plus 172 net yards for the game, 2-1 on the year, and they have won the yardage battle in every single game this season. On the other side, you have Rutgers coming off a bye. They're 2-0 on the year, but who have they played? A bunch of nobodies. We're talking Howard and Akron. Can't get any lower than that, folks, going into this game. This will be Rutgers' first road game of the year. And if you actually looked at how this team performed on the road last season, -9 point differential, -99 net yard average on the road last year. So this team underperformed consistently in away from New Jersey. Then you have Virginia Tech coming off basically a great home season in 2023, plus 11 point differential, plus 103 net yard average in their home games, 4-2 straight up in ATS last season. And then what does Rutgers want to do? They love to run the ball. They average 6.8 yards per carry this season against that lackluster competition. They have a star running back in Kyle Monagai, who's rushed for over 1,300 yards last season. He's listed as questionable for this game. He may not play, and if he does play, he's going to be a little bit banged up, as well as other players on that roster. And then Virginia Tech, while they've been gashed in the run game this season, they have a good defense, especially in the passing. 13.6% sack rate, so they pressure the quarterback well. They hold their opponents to 47% pass completion rate and 124 passing yards per game. So I'm sure Virginia Tech will scheme to stop Monagai and give the ball to the quarterback and make him make plays. And that's exactly what Virginia Tech wants in this situation. And Virginia Tech also likes to run the ball. 4.3 yards per carry this season and 5.7 yards per carry last week versus ODU. And you have a Rutgers team struggling to stop the run. Even against Howard and Akron, they gave up 4.9 yards per carry in their first 2 games of the year. So this is not a good sign here for Rutgers going into Big Ten play, even though this is going to be the last non-conference before they get to that. And Virginia Tech, too. They were a 7-point dog. This is a revenge spot here, folks. They were a 7-point dog at Rutgers last year, and now you're seeing them here as a 3.5-point favorite. Granted, this has to do with a lot of the injuries on the Rutgers side driving this line to here, but it's still a significant line shift from game A to game B here. Also, I like Virginia Tech here. Good home team versus a bad road team. They got the revenge factor, a huge line shift from year 1 and year 2, and I think Virginia Tech is coming into its rhythm after that rocky start, that bad loss to Vandy. And now you're going to see them carry that momentum. This is a team that I said during the preview shows. This is a team we need to watch. This is a team that's got to get over their win total. This is a team that can contend for a spot in the ACC championship, in my humble opinion. Will that come to fruition? We shall see. But I like them here in this spot. Give me Virginia Tech -3.5 as the play.
Yeah, the only collaboration of the broadcast, thorough analysis by the Gun. Just a couple more points of elaboration by me. As Guns mentioned, Vatek is showing upward momentum. Just to give it a little bit of detail, they did take an egregious outright loss in week 1 at Vanderbilt in overtime as a significant favorite. I took a loss in week 1 in their home opener. They did not cover their only home game of the year against Marshall, 31-14. A tight one, a 17-point win on a -20.5. So very tight stuff. Last week is when they really awakened in the second half against Old Dominion to really open up a 37-10 lead and hammer an Old Dominion team that has been impressive this year with some prior covers. And just one final point on the Rutgers situation. As Guns mentioned, the team is very polarized home to road, and they have 2 non-representative home wins, very similar to the handicap of Louisiana, the Ragin' Cajuns. In my opinion, Rutgers and Louisiana are almost an identical situational fade this week. And they do have a transfer quarterback from Minnesota, Ethan Kaliakmanis, the Greek something, but we know he is Greek, and we know he doesn't travel well. His only season last year as a full-time FBS starter, he was 1-4 ATS on the road with Minnesota with an average loss points per game by -14.4 points. As Guns mentioned, Rutgers hammered them last year in New Brunswick, but that was a box score outlier. Vatek outgained them in the game 319-302 and had more first downs. Massive line shift. This is line functionality. I have Vatek to win this game by 13 points on the average. A collab play. The buy hat is engaged. Vatek -3.5. My next play, 3 o'clock, obscure market football where I love to live. We're going to Northern Nevada, Reno, and we're taking the Wolfpack at -9.5 against Eastern Washington. I started to go through this, and I noticed that Nevada has been very competitive this year. So I did a little more research, and I noticed they have a first-year head coach, Jeff Choate. Jeff Choate is not a household name across America. So I'll give you a couple points as to why this guy's a great buy element for this team. This guy single-handedly rebuilt Montana State's program in the FCS from 2016 to 2019, a total bottom feeder to the playoffs before taking a year off during COVID and going to Texas, juggernaut Texas, and becoming their co-defensive coordinator, inside linebackers coach for the last 3 years. Now he's the head coach with Nevada. And now you find a very interesting competitive edge, I think, in this game for Choate and this group. When Choate was the coach of Montana State, Eastern Washington actually went 3-0 against Montana State. So Choate is going to walk into that locker room and know he has a much better team with Nevada and say, guys, I got my ass kicked 3 times by this team. Let's turn up and hammer this team. And if you really go through Nevada's ATS trends here, they're coming in here 0-2 ATS last 2. I think they bottomed out last week. They played a road game against Minnesota. Minnesota elite defense, obviously, in the Big Ten, 27-0 shutout. But prior to that, as I mentioned, very, very impressive. Huge cover in week 1 at home against SMU. Almost won the game at plus 27.5. Went on the road and won in the Sun Belt at Troy, 28-26, plus 7.5. And their only home non-cover of the year against Georgia Southern, 2017 loss as a small favorite, outgained Georgia Southern 498 to 285, had 216 total yards in the final 5.5 minutes of the game, and somehow scored 0 points. If you notice what I'm doing this week, I'm buying low on situational outliers and fading high on teams that are fool's gold. And speaking of fool's gold, Eastern Washington, 1-2 ATS this year against all FCS opponents. Barely covered against Monmouth at home. Last time I checked, Monmouth is fairly scrappy in MAAC basketball in January, not collegiate football. And then Eastern Washington took 2 egregious losses. Lost as a 35-point favorite at home to Drake in overtime, and another road loss last week. I think Jeff Choate and these boys are going to turn up, lay down the hammer, and really annihilate this EWU team. Official play, Nevada at 3 o'clock in Reno, minus 9.5. Going to the gun, late night special tomorrow night, BYU hosting Kansas State. The gun bought Kansas State last week. Now he's selling. He knows where Kansas State's moving. BYU's a buy low. Guns picks, unofficial.
Yeah, if I cash this one, then you can call me the official Wildcat Whisperer, baby. We got Kansas State ranked opponent here, number 13 in the country, going against BYU. Going to Provo, Utah, where the Mormons graze and run and play. 10:30 p.m. late night dinner special, and you know I love these plays. BYU coming into this game 3-0 on the year. Won the yardage battle in every single contest. Plus 2204 net yard average for the year. Plus 17 point differential. But their opponents kind of lackluster, but I'll give SMU that SMU win some credit because they did that on a Friday night. Southern Illinois, SMU, and Wyoming have been their competition. Now, Kansas State coming off a nice primetime Friday win that we picked right. 31-7, plus 67 net yards, plus 1 turnover ratio for the game. Their season has been great, plus 96 net yard average, plus 22 point differential. But really, they played Tulane, Arizona, and UT Martin. UT Martin really driving up their point differential and net yard average. And what does Kansas State want to do? I said it last week. They love to run the ball. 7 yards per carry now in their first 3 games. And they run by committee with DJ Giddens, Avery Johnson, and Dylan Edwards. You got to look at this BYU defense. This may be the best defense that they've faced all year in terms of stopping the run. BYU only gives up 3.4 yards per carry in the ground game, 131 yards passing so far. And they did that against, well, a high-powered offense that SMU brings to the table, and they shut them down. BYU wants to pass the ball. That is their bread and butter. 289 yards per game passing already, 8.9 yards per attempt. And Kansas State has shown some weakness at stopping the passing game, allowing 422 passing yards to Tulane, 260 passing yards to Arizona. And I just love a good situational play. This is another one. Sandwich situation for Kansas State. You have them coming out of a nice dominating win over Arizona in primetime. And it was a rank versus rank game for that matter. And then now they're going on the road to go play BYU in the altitude in Provo, Utah. And guess who is up on deck? Perennial runner-up in the Big 12 championship last year, a team that I love from the season, and I have a future on them to win the Big 12, the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. And they got to play them at home in a revenge spot. Also, look at BYU, 5-1 ATS as a home dog in their last 3 seasons, 3-0 ATS as a home dog versus ranked opponents. And then Kansas State, 1-4 ATS last 2 seasons as an away favorite. This is not a good spot to be buying the Wildcats. We need to fade, and take the Cougars on this one. And I love their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff. Hopefully I said that name right. I think that guy's going to be an offensive spark for this game. So give me BYU. I got it at +7. You can take it at any number and might as well sprinkle on the money line because I think they could win this game outright. But I'm going to use my number, BYU, +7 as the play.
My final play, 3:30 in Lubbock, Texas. We're taking Texas Tech in the first half, -2.5. And this is the continued conversation that began last week and will continue all year and years to come. When you see a team open at -3 for the game and -2.5 for the first half, it should tell you a story. And I started to go through it. Why is Texas Tech such a heavy favorite in the first half? Bayron Morton has been one of 3 or 4 quarterbacks that's really bounced around in and out of the lineup for this team for now 3 seasons. When he plays at home, this team comes out with elite level of offense. 2 games this year, the opener against FCS Abilene Christian, they came out and were up 32-14 in the middle of the second quarter. Did actually melt that cover. But the point was, it was not because the offense was not turned up to the highest level of quality. Go back to last week, week 3, September 14th. They did not lack quality on either side in the first half at home. 49-7 blowout against North Texas. And I think you're going to see an incredible fade spot here against Arizona State, who's playing back-to-back road games and their first ever game in the Big 12. Not only that, as again seems to be the theme of this broadcast, finding situational outliers that you can fade and sell. Arizona State is 3-0 straight up. They're 3-0 ATS, and they're 3-0 ATS in the first half. But if you really go game by game, it's very polarized, home versus road. Week 1 at home against Wyoming, 27-0 first half blowout. Week 2 against Mississippi State, 27-3 first half blowout. So you know what? Take notes. We will buy Arizona State at home in the first half, probably next week, to be perfectly honest. But now you go back to last week, a Thursday night game at Texas State. They were a small underdog in the first half. Texas State was up 21-7 with 5 minutes to go in the second quarter and gave up 2 touchdowns in the final 3:36 of the half, including a rushing touchdown with 6 seconds to go in a half. So Arizona State on the road was unimpressive early and got fortunate to cover, and that's where you want to sell it in the same environment, an even more difficult environment the next week. The line's all over it. The Red Raiders will be pissed off. It's a great spot to buy. 3:30 p.m. Texas Tech at home in the first half, -2.5. That's the broadcast for tonight. A fast-paced 30 minutes. We appreciate you guys tuning in on a Friday night into Saturday morning. Week 4, it is an opportunity to dominate. My 5 top plays: Kansas in the first half +0.5. Tulane money line -122. Nevada at home -9.5. Collab play with the gun, Vatek -3.5. And as just discussed, Texas Tech first half -2.5. The gun, Vatek -3.5. Michigan +4.5. BYU +7. And tonight, late night special, San Jose State +13. Sending you guys amazing vibes. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. All health, wellness, love, and respect to everybody. Guns, a pleasure. As always, close them out with some words, and let's dominate.
Yeah, shout out to the chat. And like Sox Nation said it best. If you haven't hit the like button, smash that thing a couple times to make sure the thumbs up is hit. And make sure you support all the content that comes on the Guns Picks channel and Sharky Waters Nation and at Sharks and Sports 88 and at Guns Picks on X. That's where you can find us for all the content. Listen, we're going to be back here on Sunday with the Extra Points, the NFL show. The big show, as Shark would call it. And we are going to be live direct in the morning, 10 a.m. East. So please check us out then. But until next time, let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bye.